Hello, college reading and writing. Welcome to our first 5-day week in distance learning, online learning. Today we are going to go through the Monday PowerPoint, and it will be the only video I do this week because much of your week will be reading your literary analysis. So let's get started. Our agenda for today, we've got word work, group 4 word number 6. We're going to talk about how to manage your reading time during your literary analysis reading, how to take notes for your literary analysis, and then I have put together a Q&A session using the questions that you guys jotted down in your YouTube reflections. So I'm going to go through like 7 or 8 of those today to make sure that we are on the right path. Okay, so let's review our word work from group 4 so far. We've got idiosyncratic. Think to yourself what that means. Idyllic, insidious, litany, and lurid. Please make sure you guys are pronouncing the words, using them in your sentences. It will only help with our understanding. So today's word is malaise. It is a noun. It's a feeling of bodily discomfort, fatigue, or unpleasantness. So it's kind of like you've got like a nervous stomach ache. My example is, Trudy knew she was getting sick due to the malaise she had been feeling in her stomach over the last 24 hours. So just kind of that uncomfortableness of something to come, whether it's sickness or nerves or whatnot. Okay, keep in mind by Friday this week, you should have 10 sentences for me to look at in OneNote for our group 4 words. Okay, let's talk about our literary analysis books. First of all, you guys have an excellent selection of books set up. I'm really excited to hear how those go. Many of them I've read. A few of them I'm really interested in reading, so hopefully you can sell that process to me. Or you can convince me why I should not read that book. Both would be good, in my view. So just to remind you, books do need to be read by Monday, May 5th. We will start the writing process, or phase 2 of the literary analysis at that point. Right now, you need to figure out how are you going to get that done. So I have 2 suggestions for you when it comes to successfully kind of goal setting with how to read your book. The first one is to divide how many pages in the book by how many pages or how many days you have to read. So looking at number 1 here, figure out how many days you have, which from Monday we would have 14 days, and divide that number of days by your page numbers. For example, if my book has 350 pages and I have 14 days left to read, I'll take 350 divided by 14, and I'll learn that I have 25 pages I need to read each day in order to get my book done by that May 5th deadline. Or if you don't want to do pages, you could look at how many chapters you have. This is number 2 down here. So if I want to go by chapters, I need to figure out how many chapters are in my book. How many days do I have? So I've got 14 days. So what I'll do, if my book has, let's say, 34 chapters, and I have 14 days to read, I'll take 34 divided by 14, and I'll learn that I have to read about 2.4 or 2.5 chapters per day to get my book done on time. Obviously, you guys, these are goals. I would definitely recommend figuring out how much you should be reading per day. Whether you stick to that or not is up to you. You are big kids now, so you can figure that out. You can read ahead some days if you know you're going to be busier on other days. Or maybe your book is just good and you want to just get through it and read it. But you do want to make sure that you manage your time appropriately and have enough days set aside. Okay, so the next thing we need to talk about is our literary analysis note-taking. You can do your note-taking for the literary analysis either in OneNote and set up a page for each of the categories in a color-coded below, or you could do it in a regular notebook and just set aside a page front and back, maybe more, depending upon how big your books are, how in-depth they might be, so that you are taking notes according to what your possible writing prompts will be. So last week, Thursday, I had you go look in OneNote, and I had set up for you a page that was called Lit Analysis Prompts. There were 5 prompts in there, and those are the 5 that you will get to choose from when you get ready to do the writing phase of the literary analysis. Right now, you're still in that gathering information and investigating phase, which comes along with the reading part of it. So phase 1, okay? Listed below in purple, orange, green, blue, and yellow here are the categories for each of the 5 prompts. So you want to set up your note taking so that you're gathering the information for each of those prompts, and you'll be prepared by the end when it comes to the writing. So I would set up a page for characters' inner struggles. Anytime you're sensing one of your main characters, and these aren't going to be your minor sub characters, but the ones that are telling the story or that the story is about, anytime one of those main characters is having an inner struggle about what to do next or how to handle a situation, you can jot that down. Another page I want you to set up is for symbols or important possessions. And that'll be different for everybody, but if something stands out, maybe there is a necklace that seems really important, or maybe there's a gem that's leading them through the journey. Jot those things down on your symbols and important objects page. Another one is suspense and foreshadowing. Even in a book that is not set up to be suspenseful, there is always foreshadowing. Sometimes you don't realize the foreshadowing until later on. You can always go back and update your notes, but have a page set up for that as well. Reoccurring themes. Many of us will see themes in our books relating to loss, people passing away, and how are people dealing with the circle of life. Or new beginnings. Many of us will see themes on turning a new page or a new chapter in the book of life, and trying to figure out how their characters are dealing with that. Some will deal with themes like success, where some characters are always winning, it seems, and other characters then reflect failure, where people are always on the losing end. So anyway, those are 3 examples that you might find in your books, who knows, but have a page set up for reoccurring themes. And then finally, figurative language, we haven't talked about a whole lot, but I know that you've had some experience with these words in your other English classes. If you want to look them up, you definitely can. You've got similes, metaphors, personification, hyperbole, analogies, and repetition. Okay, so your similes and metaphors are comparisons. Similes use like or as to compare, metaphors do not. Personification is giving a non-human object human characteristics. So something like the tree's branches swayed like arms in the breeze, or something like that. Hyperbole is extreme exaggeration or dramatization. So if a situation in your book is being exaggerated to prove a point, that would be hyperbole. Analogies are stories that help you understand your story. So it's like a story within a story, or a connection with something that happened in the past to your current story to help it become more understandable. And then finally, repetition. Maybe there's a repetition of how a character behaves. You keep seeing them behave this one way. Or maybe the author uses language, word choice, a phrase over and over. That phrase is probably important if they're using repetition. It's not just general talk, but it's more a phrase that seems important to the story. Okay, so those are your 5 different categories. They are your 5 possible prompts. I do want you, during this phase 1 of gathering and investigating, to be recording notes based on those ideas in a notebook or in OneNote. It's also very important for you to include page numbers so that it's easy to find those examples as we discuss our books in discussion board, and then eventually when you're writing. Okay. So coming up, I've got a few Q&A sessions here using questions that you guys posted in your Schoology reflection following the YouTube videos last week. So the first one, how is the literary analysis different from the argumentative essay we already wrote? The answer is they are very, very similar. They have the exact same structure. The main difference is that your book for the literary analysis is your only source. And also, I am giving you 5 prompts that you need to choose one of to write your literary analysis. With the argumentative essay, you got to choose your perspective, and there are a bunch of different things you can do with that. For the literary analysis, you do have to follow one of the 5 prompts. Is there a specific structure for the literary analysis? Answer is yes. Go check your OneNote for the literary analysis structure and the literary analysis map. How many paragraphs will the literary analysis be? Answer is that it'll be at least 6. paragraphs. You'll have your intro. You'll have at least 3 claim paragraphs, at least 1 counterclaim paragraph, call to action, and a conclusion. Now, in the lit analysis, you can combine your call to action, your conclusion to be 1 paragraph. You can have more claims than the 3 that we have listed here and in the structure and in the map. You can have more counterclaims, but you do need to at least have the 3 claims and 1 counterclaim. And then again, you can smush together the call to action and the conclusion. What do we focus on in our literary analysis? I just spent a lot of time talking about that. You have 5 different prompts to choose from. You want to take good notes during the gathering and investigating phase so that by the time you get done with the book reading, you've got notes for each page and you can see which one of those you have the most information or you feel like you can argue the best. If you feel like the character's inner struggles is something that really caught your eye and your interest during the reading, choose that prompt. If you feel like the themes were so essential to your book, choose that prompt. If you feel like the language was really descriptive and it helped you understand using the hyperbole or the personification or the repetition, choose that prompt. But you will focus on one of the 5 prompts listed in OneNote already and the ones that I just went over for note taking. How many sources will we need for the literary analysis? 1. Your book is your source. Your book and your brain, you're going to put those 2 together and come up with a great literary analysis. Question 2 on this slide. How will we cite our source in the text? First of all, remember we're using MLA, so you're going to follow MLA. In the text for a book, you use the author's last name, you put a space, and then the page number on which you found it. So it's going to be really important that we have those page numbers documented in our notes so that it's easy to go back and know what to have there. At the end of your entire paper, you will have an entire works cited page dedicated only to the MLA citation of your novel. So it seems like a waste, but you're not printing them, you're just sharing them, so it's really not that big of a deal. How do I know what the author's plan or purpose was in writing this book? You don't, you guys. You're not going to actually talk to the author. You don't have to go dig and find out what the author's purpose of writing this book was. You are a critic here. So think of this as like the movie critics who give Rotten Tomatoes a certain percentage, or the movie critics who say what parts of the movie were good. The action was good, the characters were good, the theme of love was good. You are that critic right now. So you want to make sure as you are going through, you have enough evidence from the book to prove your critique. Okay? If you say that the characters were flat and there was nothing interesting about them, you have to have proof from your book to show what you mean. If you thought the themes were essential and really well developed, you have to have proof from your book to show that. Okay, so you're looking at how the author created the different parts of this book, and then you're critiquing how the author did that. You don't ever have to talk to the author. You don't have to know what they were thinking. It's your critique about what they did and how they did that. How does a call to action work in a literary analysis? Here are 4 ideas for a call to action. You don't have to use any one of these, but they are 4 that have worked well in the past. So you could, in your call to action, encourage other readers to check out this author. You could express a need for all graduating students to read something by this author, or maybe this book specifically. You could explain how the theme should be shared with the world. Maybe it's a really essential theme about empathy or something like that, and you want everybody to read it because of that theme. And then finally, you could share the importance of teens reading about these characters. Again, maybe making connections with students or teenagers who live in a different type of setting, world, time period, city, country than you. It could be helpful for us as small town USA teenagers to read and get perspective about those other ideas. Okay, guys. So, just a few things. Remember, as you are getting your reading going, you want to structure your time, figure out how many pages or chapters you need to read each day. Second, make sure you're taking good notes. Set up your pages according to those 5 themes. And then finally, in OneNote, there are 3 good examples of literary analysis papers that I have shared with you in the page that says Literary Analysis Examples. they're good examples. I wouldn't say they're perfect examples, but they do show you how to like provide evidence